This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV. The Big Football Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. on Roku at 4 p.m. And yes, sir, here we go, folks. It's Sunday. It's the Big Football Show, and we're going to have a lot to get in. We're going to try and get as much in as we can today. I have a lot of stuff going on. We got Keith Engle coming in from TGI Sports Talk. We got the Philly sports guy scheduled to be in the second hour. We also have two big guests coming in, Anthony Bomasuto of the Buffalo Bills. He's a podcaster, knows a lot about the Buffalo Bills. And Randy Lange will be joining us from the Jets PR department. He'll be coming in the second hour also, and we got a lot of stuff to cover. Good morning, everybody. Some quick notes around sports before we start this. The men's USA basketball team moves forward, beating Puerto Rico. The USA women's soccer team moves into the next round as they win. Aaron Judge hits his 41st home run. It will be 70-something before the year's out. And Ohtani goes 30-30. He's a 30-30 player right now. He has 30 stolen bases, over 30 home runs. And Terrence Crawford wins a unanimous decision last night against Jack. Who's the guy's name again? You're right, that guy. He beat him.
Uzbekistan. Yeah. It was a close fight, a very close fight. And we're not used to Crawford being in a close fight that goes the distance. He stopped his last 11 opponents. And Crawford's been known for losing rounds early in the fight as he's sizing an opponent up. But then he comes on and starts showing dominance at a certain point. But this time around, it was a struggle. I mean, he won on the card, 2 scores, 115, 113, 7 rounds to 5. The other 116, 112. It was a nip and tuck fight, close fight.
All right.
And maybe Crawford was a little rusty. Maybe at age 36, he's getting on a little in years. But I got to stop. As soon as Keith comes on, I got to stop talking and remain silent for about 15 minutes. It's like you expect me, Mac, to slam on the brakes if I was a driver and I see Keith waiting for the lift. I can't just ease up with the car to the curb. Got to slam on the brakes because you get all that. So I'm stopping.
We have Keith Engle joins us every Sunday. He's our college expert, and of course, he talks a lot about the Patriots. We do have a couple stories, in both areas today, Keith. First, I want to get to the Georgia Bulldogs. When it rains, it pours. Wide receiver Rara Thomas arrested on multiple charges. One is felony second-degree cruelty to children, and that was recently done. I think it was Friday. He's been in trouble before in 2023. He also got arrested for cruelty to a family. I think the right term here is false imprisonment, which is a form of kidnapping when he was at Mississippi State. So this guy is not the same as the last one, Keith. The last guy that got in trouble was a backup defensive back, a special teams player. This guy is slotted to be a starting wide receiver. I haven't heard anything since, Keith. What do you think Kirby Smart does here? Does he suspend or kick this guy out, or does he let this guy because he's going to be a starter kind of?
They have to address it some way, right? Or as you said, he's he's reacting differently to somebody who can help him win, which would be certainly not a good look. Plus, the difference here also is some of these allegations go back before he came to Georgia. They must have vetted this guy before they brought him into the program in the portal. So if these things happened at Mississippi before he got there, are we just did they just pretend they didn't happen, or did they not do their due diligence? And I think they're both just as egregious, regardless of which way they went.
So, anyways, we'll see what Kirby Smart does over there as all this off-field stuff is going on. Good morning, David. Good morning, Rick. Glad to have you aboard. So, Keith, there are some really good matchups this year in the NCAA. The first week we talked about a little bit. Georgia, Clemson is going to be a big matchup. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. I want to ask you about a couple other ones that they have going on here. Texas against Michigan in week 2. New head coach at Michigan. Texas is rated in the top 3. I think they're 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. But Michigan's got a lot to prove coming back playing without their head coach.
Oh, without their head coach, without their quarterback, without their top running back, they've lost a lot, Michigan. They've got a lot to prove. The head coach move, I like the continuity. He did a very good job filling in for when he was suspended. But Michigan, would expect to take a step back this year, and I don't even expect them to be in a Big Ten championship game. That'll be a good matchup. The Clemson-Georgia matchup you mentioned is kind of intriguing as well, because we're going to find out whether Dabo has got that team on the right track or not early. It's a big game for both teams, I think. I mean, Georgia can probably overcome a loss more than Clemson can here, because it might be difficult for anybody who doesn't win the ACC championship to get a playoff for a loss on their record. It might be very obviously they're going to have a loss if they finish second. When I talk about but that's an intriguing matchup. And by the way, in week 0, and you got to be careful with the weeks because there's a week 0, which is on the 24th. I think Florida State Georgia Tech matchup is an intriguing matchup that first week, even though Florida State's a double-digit favorite. I think Georgia Tech has gotten much better the last 2 years. It's going to be an interesting game. A lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion that Florida State will continue their improvement that they've shown the last 4 years in the ACC. I'm not so sure. I'm not a huge fan of Engle. If I'm saying his name, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. We'll call him DJ. Coming in and filling the quarterback spot is going to be on the same level as what they got last year. And they've lost a lot of other great players as well, especially on defense. I think that's and Georgia Tech's gotten much better since they changed coaches in the middle of the season 2 years ago. I think that's an intriguing game as well.
You also got
Notre Dame. It's a big gauge.
Texas A&M. You also got Alabama playing Wisconsin, Keith. Alabama is kind of fallen out of the top 5. They're ranked around number 7. Wisconsin always has a pretty strong defense and a good running game. What do you think? I mean, is that possibly Wisconsin could, reach up and grab them?
They could. It's possible. It's a big game for both schools. Kalen DeBoer obviously is going to be under a microscope, but Luke Fickell has not really set the world on fire yet at Wisconsin after doing great things at Cincinnati, and he's under a bit of a microscope here as well. He's got a long contract, but that doesn't mean anything in college football anymore, so he needs to get things turned around at Wisconsin a little bit. 8-5 seasons are not going to do it up there for long.
I agree. So let's get to the little New England Patriots news. Let's see. Pat's outside linebacker, Matthew Judon, is having a problem with his contract. He was seen on the field kind of going at it with your head coach Mayo there. He wasn't participating in the practice at all. He was in his regular clothes. Him and as I said, Mayo yelling at each other. He ends up walking off the field, kind of disgusted. What do you think is going to happen there, Keith?
I think they'll probably come to some kind of resolution to this. I think they'll find a resolution. He'll sign something, or he'll play the season out. He's not going to not play. I like Matthew Judon a lot. He's a great player when he's on the field. He's had too many injury issues the last couple of years. That's hurt this team on the defensive side of the ball. It's a really good defensive team anyway. It's even better, obviously, when he's in there and healthy. I never like when guys who have a contract want to not honor it and hold out and do all this other stuff. And the worst thing he did in my mind is he called out the fans, who he says are spoiled from winning for 20 years. Well, why don't you do something to change that? Maybe, Matthew, and be quiet and maybe try to stay on the field a little more. He's a great player, and I hate bad-mouthing guys I like, but you can't take this kind of tact, and you certainly can't attack the fans because they're going to show their displeasure, I'm sure, when he first steps on the field in Gillette Stadium. So I don't like the tact he's taken here at all. This is not the first time he's done it either, by the way. He did it last year the same way. He tried to pressure them into a new contract and possibly moving. I don't see them moving this late date, though.
I mean, he did 2 years ago. He had an unbelievable season with the Patriots and a very good pass rusher. I mean, Mayo doesn't need any other extra outside influences and stuff going on. He's, this is a big year for him taking over for Bill Belichick. And right now, I think Judon is putting himself in a bad place as you said, when it comes to the fans, all that good stuff. So,
by the way, when it comes to the fans thing, you weren't there for any of that success, Matthew. Right. So they're not spoiled in the sense that they've watched a bad football team for 2 of the last 4 years. I mean, 2 years, they went to the playoffs 1 year. 2 years ago, look at it. We think they've had 2 bad years in a row. It hasn't been great, but they were in playoff contention to the last week 2 years ago. So it's not like that was a total wash. But he wasn't there for any of this success. He's only been there for the lack of success. So
yes. So anyway, we'll see what happens, how that develops. I agree with you. He's going to end up playing, Keith. Good morning to Carlton. Let's see. He's got a lot of AFC comments here, which is good because we'll have our 2 guests from the AFC coming in here. Rick, thanks a lot.
That sounds like a Carlos comment there. Sure, that's not Carlos under an assumed name.
It could be. Thanks, Rick. We really enjoy doing the Sports History Show on Saturdays and Bottom Line Sports.
Flo.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Listen, could Clemson get on? And they could. But, of course, they do not like using that trans portal. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes in. And, of course, we have James back here now. Good to see you back, James. I'm glad.
Or NIL, by the way. They don't like the NIL or the transfer portal. So,
I don't think they like anything in Clemson, to be honest with you, Keith. Anything new they don't like. In fact, I don't think they like the new pizza that they're putting out there right now. The one that has, all the different things on there that doesn't come with a normal pizza.
You know what they like to do, though? They like to win and play for national championships, and Dabo better change his opinion. And listen, I don't like the way football is today either, but he's getting paid to win games. I'm not. So
I definitely agree with that. So let's talk a little bit about Tyreek Hill, who ends up signing a 3-year, $90 million contract. 65 of that is guaranteed. And he was voted number 1 in the top 100 players of the NFL 2024. I mean, they're looking at their crystal ball right now. And they're saying he's going to be the top player in 2020 by players. Now, I guess if I'm Miami, I want to pay Tyreek Hill and keep him there. And I don't want to get into the contract discussion because that's the same thing over and over again. Everybody gets paid too much. But I don't think Tyreek Hill is the top player in the NFL.
Is Patrick Mahomes sitting out the season? I don't know about it. Did I miss the news? Or what?
I mean, the wide receivers, I think 3 of them were in the top 5 or top 10. So the wide receivers are getting all, and we're going to talk a little bit about the wide receivers coming up. I was watching a documentary of the NFL receivers, but Tyreek Hill with Miami is a good receiver. But when he left the Chiefs still won the Super Bowl. And Miami,
good receiver.
Yeah,
he's better than good.
Well, you're right. That's unfair. He's a very good player. But people thought the Chiefs were going to go in a tank when he left, and I said all along it was Mahomes and Kelsey that made that offense go, and Tyreek Hill was a benefactor of that. He's a great player. No, good was wrong. Thank you, James, for calling me out on that because that was wrong. But he's not the most important. I don't know what the criteria is here, but I can tell you the most important player in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. If he gets hurt, the Chiefs are done. What else do they have? So think about if guys go out, what team's season is over. So, they're going to find a way.
I don't think.
How many playoff games they won down there in Miami with Tyreek?
I don't understand why, and this is voted on by the players. All right, and I think we'll go. Me and Jack's going to talk about it a little bit tomorrow on the show. We'll go more in depth into it. It just blows my mind that he's number one out of all the choices you have out there.
But wait a minute, hold on. 100 out of 100 players, they're not talking about MVPs here. They're not talking about how your value is to your team. You're just saying 100 players of the league. I mean, Barry Sanders win playoffs. I mean, he won one playoff game. Would you not consider him still a number one player in 100?
That's a good. I would consider Barry Sanders better than Tyreek Hill, though.
Oh, yeah.
But I get the point. You're right. That's not. I don't know. Different kind of rankings like this, right? They use different criterias, and to me, being a fan, I care about the guys who produce wins and playoff wins and Super Bowls.
Fair enough.
It's a little more than that. It's what Tyreek Hill does to alter defenses more so than any other player. Because when he's on the field, the defense has to gear on him. Because if they don't, he's a thunderbolt. He'll just blaze by the cornerbacks, catch a long pass,
and still beat the same.
He alters the defense, which helps other players on his team.
They got a great player on the other side too, by the way, who's not chopped.
I think so. I think they got a pretty good running game, and I think Travis Kelce does the same things for the Chiefs, right? They double team, triple team this guy, and he's still catching touchdowns and winning Super Bowls, right? I mean, see, I'm so tipped. I don't even look at it. No, I'm just saying. I mean, come on. I mean, top player in the NFL is Tyreek Hill, really. I think
he's 5'8".
All they talk about now is wide receivers. That's all they talk about right now, and that's all it is to me. All right, that's all it is. That has nothing to do with Tyreek Hill being the top player. I'm not saying he's not a great wide receiver. I don't know if he's a number one wide receiver.
Hey, Max now makes really great
in the league. Let me, James, before you go crazy, a number one receiver in the league. I think Justin Jefferson might be better than him. I think there's other receivers out there equal to or better than him. I don't know. I don't know. If the offense is driven by the quarterback, which everybody tells me now, right? Without a great quarterback, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. How does a wide receiver become the top player? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think the criteria
biggest threat, though. He's the single biggest threat amongst the wide receivers in the NFL. Maybe he's not the best, but he's the one a defense has to be most concerned with.
And the criteria is based off the previous season. He was the most dominant receiver last season.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he? He was more dominant than Amon from Detroit?
I would say so, yeah. You got to consider that whole team was just dominant in Detroit. It wasn't just Amon-Ra, St. Brown. That Detroit on both sides of the offense and defense were great.
Was he more
Super Bowl, if I remember right?
You have to consider who they play with. In all fairness, he does play with Jalen Waddle, so that releases Tyreek Hill to do a little more. And you mentioned Justin Jefferson. He plays with Jordan Addison, so that helps him out as well.
And Rick brings up a great point. Once it gets below the 32 degrees, he's kind of. I was going
to say that earlier, as far as important to your team, right? And I said, well, the Kansas City Chiefs season's over.
Whoa, wait. He caught Tyreek Hill for a touchdown pass in the playoffs. The Dolphins only score against the Chiefs in that cold weather last year.
the Dolphins are only good enough to go someplace and lose on the road in the cold weather. That's my point. They're not.
But he caught a touchdown pass. That was the only score they had.
Well, and how'd that help them? So,
Yes. Happy birthday, John Riggins. A great running back, Hall of Famer.
John Riggins' birthday.
John Riggins. So anyway, folks, we got our first taste of the NFL. It officially kicked off. We had the Hall of Fame game, of course, and none of the starters played. The backup quarterback, Brett Rippon, threw for 3 touchdowns. Colin Johnson made some great catches. So Ken, the Bear fan, is ecstatic over there right now. I mean, they won their first preseason game. Of course, it was cut short in the third quarter for bad weather. Let me ask you a question. I got a young quarterback on the Chicago Bears, and I want to get him up to speed right away. I want him ready to come out, first game, ready to go. Why aren't you playing him a little bit? Why aren't you giving him a quarter action and kind of build him up until the first game? Why are you saying, okay, we're not playing you? Maybe we play you for a quarter to third game. Why aren't you getting this guy in there, getting him some reps in a game situation? And I don't want to hear that he could get hurt. Yeah, anybody could get hurt.
Every down. I would play him every down in the preseason. Every down.
Wow.
I mean, geez, Mac, I don't know about James. I don't think you guys fully understand. You can't just put Caleb Williams in there to play if he's not playing with the first team. You can't give him a mixture of players from the first, second, third team, potential practice squad guys. It'll throw him completely off sync, being a rookie, expecting him to adjust to that. You can only really play him with the first team because he's going to be starting for the Bears this year. We know that already. So the Bears are planning accordingly. They'll probably get him some reps by the last exhibition game when they put in all the other starters. And they're not going to start speeding up the process of the other starters in the exhibition season just to accommodate Caleb Williams either.
Really? Hold on. To accommodate Caleb Williams, it's the team you're accommodating and getting the team ready to win games. Caleb Williams I guarantee you, he will play far less in the preseason than he should to get ready to be an NFL starter in week 1. Guaranteed.
Yeah,
he should play.
But that's all starters.
And why aren't we putting in the first team for a quarter with Caleb Williams? Why not? Why can't we do that?
How about half the game? Whatever.
He's come out and said that he wanted to play, but they wouldn't allow him to play.
None of the teams, I don't believe any of the teams in the NFL are going to play their starters a substantial amount of the preseason. It's just the way it is. They know what they got. They know how they're going to prepare.
Bad football for a whole month of September.
They don't know who they got. Caleb Williams hasn't played in a game yet. They think they know who they got. Caleb Williams needs to get as many reps in as he can before the season starts.
Correct.
That only makes sense to me. I mean, Bo Nix with Denver. If he's going to be a starting quarterback, you got to get as many reps as you can with this guy before you start. Or else you're going to lose. You're going to lose the opening games, and that can lose you the playoff position. Listen, I know what they do, Jack. We all know. We all watch preseason every year. I'm saying that if you have a rookie quarterback that you're going to start, you got to get him reps, and you got to get as many reps as possible.
What are we seeing with Drake May isn't going to play a lot in the preseason.
They don't think they're starting him, though.
He's not the starting quarterback.
He's not going to play a lot.
That's totally different.
No, it's not, Keith. They want to get those guys ready to start the Patriots and Vikings as soon as reasonably possible. We know they're not going to start the season. But they want to get them ready as quick as they can be. They don't want them sitting on the bench for 2 years.
No, they don't plan on playing them much this year. Right now, I can tell you that right now, and that's totally. The situations are not comparable in my mind. Not when counting on Caleb Williams from day one.
Right, he's a clear-cut starter.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm glad you brought that up, Rick. We're going to a little bit about the new kickoff rules.
Yeah,
now the onside kick, yes, is stupid. I don't understand why you're announcing it. I have no idea. it's ridiculous. But I do like that they changed the kickoff return rules. They've still got to work it out. The players don't know what the hell they're doing with it yet. But I'm glad. I think it was 7 out of 8 kickoffs were returned in some way or another. I do like it. It's kind of convoluted. I don't understand the whole rule yet because I know it's got to fall in the box. And if it's the goal line, there's this. And if it goes into the end zone, there's that. I get that. But anything that can get the kickoff return game back in the NFL, I'm all for. I think the players should have maybe blocked right away instead of falling back. And I don't know what they were doing. I don't think they know
what to do.
Yes,
I don't think
right.
they know what to do.
And that's just good coaching. That's good coaching that your players don't know what to do during the kickoff return. I mean, I love that. I mean, come on. I mean, that already tells me I'm not too happy with the Houston head coach and the Chicago head coach right now. If you don't know what to do, I think you should practice that a little bit, right? Maybe I'm crazy, but anyway. Good morning to Danny. Glad to have you in. So anyway, at least we got that in. So let's get to what I want to get to is the Hard Knocks update here. Interesting to me, not interesting to a lot of Giant fans. I don't think they're very happy with what they saw behind the scenes with Joe Shane there. It was mainly about him, and a lot of people call him stupid and idiot or whatever. Listen, I think, it was the draft. They drafted the best, what they felt was the best athlete, big player available, who was, of course, Malik Neighbors. There was talk before, if all 3 receivers were available, they were going with Malik Neighbors, not Marvin Harrison Jr. or I can't pronounce his name for the Bears, the wide receiver from Washington. They were going to go with Malik Neighbors. That's who they liked. Some people didn't like that. That's what they were going to do. But I got no problem. I think Malik Neighbors will be a great wide receiver eventually in the NFL. He's got the potential. Let's put it that way.
I watched the whole thing, and I'm not convinced they wouldn't have taken Marvin Harrison if he was there, by the way. I think they believed all along it would come down to Duze and Neighbors, and they like Neighbors better.
Yes. They knew Marvin Harrison wasn't going to be there. They were being logical about it.
I agree.
So he wasn't seriously in the discussion.
There was a point, Jack, where they said if they fall down, if Harrison falls down, who you going with? And I'm almost positive that most of them said Malik Neighbors.
The question is, if Dunze had gone to the Chargers and they had a choice between Malik Neighbors and Joe Alt, they have possibly taken Joe Alt, the offensive lineman.
No, they had their mind made up to Malik Neighbors when they went in the draft room. That's who they wanted.
But by the way, only made their mind up after they found out they couldn't trade up to get a quarterback. They wanted a quarterback. It was very obvious they wanted a quarterback.
Yes, especially the ball did want that quarterback first. But anyway, that didn't happen. The Patriots put the kibosh on that pretty.
Right.
No, but just think of it. They want a particular quarterback. I mean, They wanted Drake May because they could have had Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix. They were all there.
I meant one of the top guys. Daniels and May were the 2 guys that they liked a lot. I know that.
And J.J. McCarthy was available. They could have took J.J. McCarthy. They did not. So that didn't happen. So the rest of the draft was to fill holes. They got what they said was probably the best safety available to replace Xavier McKinney. So they went up and got Tyler Nubin. They replaced one of our defensive backs with Drew Phillips. They picked up tight end Theo Johnson, which was, I think, a good pickup for him. They definitely needed a tight end, and he's 6'6", 260 or whatever. And then they picked up a running back, Tyrone Tracy. And I think they're trying to figure out how they're going to replace Saquon Barkley with the running backs they have, Singletary and Tracy. So that's pretty much the end of the documentary that they had up there. I don't know. I enjoyed
it, by the way. I thought it was, as far as entertainment, I enjoyed it a lot, seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff. That was fun.
Yeah, I did like that a little bit, but I think the Bears are up next in training camp, and to me, that's a bunch of
Tuesday night.
of hype, about training camp that you can watch on films anyway. You just won't see the players fooling around and stuff like that. So anyway, that was it for that.
DJ Moore, he signed a big extension, wide receiver of the Bears.
Yes,
So
he did.
Bears an intriguing team. My feeling is they're not going to have as much success as some people think that they're going to have this year, that they're still in transition. But, we'll see.
Yeah, no
I got
doubt.
5 guys.
All right, Keith, we'll see you. Have a good one over there on Stream of Consciousness.
Yes, we'll see you guys next week. Have a great Sunday.
Yes,
You too, sir.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
So we're back to 3 right now, and I do want to talk to you guys about a documentary, NFL documentary called Receiver. It's about 4 or 5 receivers, and they follow them all the way through the season, injuries, training camp, all this stuff. Now I'm going to tell you, George Kittle and Deebo Samuels were part of this. We'll get to all of them. I'll kind of break them down for you. We're part of this documentary. I don't know if you guys have watched it or not, but it's pretty interesting. I didn't think it was. I begrudgingly watched it because, again, it's about the divas of the league. But anyway, George Kittle was part of it. Tight end George Kittle. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love George Kittle. George Kittle is the most entertaining, fun guy on a football team you want. He screams, he loves football. He does all this crazy stuff. Great receiver, great tight end. Probably him and Kelsey are the 2 best tight ends right now in the league. You can see the support. You see him talking. You see him with his family. I mean, this guy is one of the guys, if I'm a head coach, I would want to start my team with. He is that enthusiastic and that entertaining of a player. And, and he blocks and he makes big plays. And, of course, they talk about their families, too. So tight end, you got Kelsey and Kittle. There are some good rookie tight ends last year that played, or younger tight ends becoming a bigger part of the game. What do you guys think? I mean, you see Kelsey playing, you see Kittle playing, you see the Minnesota tight end, the Detroit tight end. I mean, what is Kittle to you guys? When you watch this guy play, how good is he, and will he continue to get better?
Well, let me just say this, and James, you could be my witness to this later on. So I'm not second guessing. I wanted the Jets to take a tight end in Brock Bowers. He was the guy to be drafted. They went offensive line. Okay, that was a neat position, but Brock Bowers is going to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And I think it's going to start in his rookie year. But that's how I wish the Jets have went. It's not going to be second guessing when I mention it numerous times in the future, the way the Jets missed the boat on the draft pick. Not that the guy they drafted won't be good. I just think Brock Bowers is going to be, outstanding. But, George Kittle there, I mean, you have to think he's a real team player. Kelsey gets to stand out with the Kansas City Chiefs. We were talking about Tyreek Hill before, especially when he left to go to the Dolphins. That just reinforced Travis Kelsey's value. They win the Super Bowl last year by working their wide receiver room as they went along, and finally getting it all together. I mean, they were so desperate. They even got McCole Hardman back from the Jets. I mean, imagine that. And George Kittle with all these other weapons, McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk. I mean, he doesn't mind fitting in. He's a superstar who doesn't mind sharing the load. He doesn't have to stand out. And one of the great tight ends in the league. Yeah,
I would agree with that. And hands galore. And as I said, it shows him playing through injuries. So they talked about Deebo Samuels. Deebo Samuels is part of it. And, of course, Deebo Samuels runs his mouth a lot, James, off field. He likes to get people fired up. But, I thought that maybe he was a little more confrontational than he was. He was a very fun guy and an important part of the San Francisco 49er offense, because when he left, they were losing, James.
Deebo Samuels is a special player. He's not, I wouldn't call him necessarily a true wide receiver. especially because of his build and the type of plays they run for him. He's kind of more of an in-between, like running back, flanker type player. But, man, he's special, like you said. He got to stay on the field. He does get injured. I think that type of position that he plays gets him injured a lot. But he's had, I think, last season the most yards after the catch of any player that was out there. So you're right. He's a very special player. And like you said, he's not really confrontational. I think he's probably just misunderstood. But a very special player for them and that team and what Shanahan wants to do with his offense. He fits the mold. I just hope that he can stay healthy enough to give them a couple more years. But they paid him the money. He got the money he wanted. And I think, a couple of years ago, and I think he'll be utilized properly. Well, he's been utilized properly, but he'll definitely continue to give them some quality seasons. But I wanted to say one thing about Kelsey. I mean, not Kelsey, but Kittle that you didn't mention. He's one of the better blocking tight ends that I've seen in a long time. I mean, yeah, most guys now they're catching the ball out of the field. He's not really known for that. He does it and he can do it, but man, as far as blocking, he's one of the best.
Jack,
he's going to have to do a lot more of it, Kittle. If Trent Williams, their great offensive lineman, if his holdout continues, because that's going to be a difference make. Even Samuel going in those end arounds, going to the other side of the field, not to have Trent Williams there to block for him. I mean, that's going to create some problems. And supposedly Williams has made so much money in his NFL career so far. If he's fed up and he doesn't like his contract status, there's a school of thought he might decide, okay, I'm just going to retire. I have enough money to last me the rest of my life. I've already played long enough and well enough for sure that I'm going to make it into the Hall of Fame. There sometimes gets to a point with a player where he really does lose interest during the holdout. He gets comfortable and figures, I'm not close to a contract. I don't really care that much anymore. No hard feelings. I just don't want to play football. I like being able not to have the structure, go out, play golf when I want, do whatever, and I'm set.
Yeah, and it did show him when he was blocking. He's like sending them all day, and he was excited about blocking. I mean, this guy is really a total team player. He's into the fans. He's really cool. So we touched on Kittle. We touched on Samuel Adams. Debo Samuel. I think I had a couple Samuel Adams before I came out. Anyway, they did talk about Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson. They followed him through his injury. He had his contract year coming up. He's still he was just he's a kid. He's a young kid that likes the bling, that likes putting on his shades, likes talking about himself in third person. I mean, he's a great wide receiver, but he's very immature still.
Whoa! Hold off, Mac. You're labeling him in a way that's unjust. Did you watch
the documentary series, Jack?
No.
All right, I did. I'm telling you, he likes his bling. He likes his teeth, his gold teeth. He likes his shades.
He likes that fun. He likes that fun. What's the big deal? I'm telling you.
I know, but he has fun he's a little immature. He's a young kid, Jack, right?
That doesn't mean you're immature. You like to be a little silly, you like to have a little fun. It doesn't mean you're immature.
I'm telling you my opinion. He's a little immature. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what he is right now.
If you're immature, you shouldn't be immature. I mean, there's a difference between having some fun or being genuinely immature. If you're immature, it affects the team. It affects
Mac, are you saying he's got a little room to grow? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, when he's putting on his stuff, looking in the mirror, saying, I'm a different player now. Now I'm different now. This is me when I don't have this stuff on. This is me when I have this stuff on. He's into this, to the young things, man. He's not. Yeah. So I say he's just a little immature. And that's not wrong with
these players. They thrive on that.
Well, especially wide receivers. They're the ones depending on the quarterback to get them the ball. So they have to be really, a lot of them focus on themselves. That's why they call them divas. Most of them focus on themselves.
But as we go on, I'm going to tell you, no other wide receiver was like that. Okay.
When
That's
Justin
no other wide
Jefferson
receiver
was,
was like that.
wait, when he was hurt last year, he was supporting his teammates. He was there. He wasn't sulking. He wasn't being an eye guy.
What does that have to do with him putting on
That's
bling?
why the Vikings, let me tell you, that's why the Vikings rewarded him by making him the highest paid wide receiver in history, because they trusted his character. So they gave him the money, and they didn't make him wait a long time.
I'm not saying that he's a bad teammate. Did I say that? I'm not saying that he's a bad wide receiver. I'm saying he's still a little immature, Jack. That's all. And
you're not a good teammate if you're immature.
Okay. All right, Jack. Anyway, so let's push on. All right. Detroit's Amon St. Brown, driven. This kid is driven. His father is a former Mr. Olympian, Mr. Bodybuilder. I mean, he was over in Germany. That's where he met his mom. And his father is a workout fanatic, still in great shape. But he was driven to be the best wide receiver. He stands up. He said, so this one receiver used the football machine, the pass machine, to catch balls. He caught 200 a day. So Amon had to catch 202. And it showed how driven this guy was to become the best, how he was he was kind of upset about not being taken so high. He had a list in his locker room of all the receivers that were taken before him. And he knew him in the top of his head. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying he was in the fifth. He's taken in the fifth round. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell us the 5 receivers that were picked ahead of him.
No, my bad. Sorry.
yes, he has that. He has that on in the locker room. He's driven to be the best. And So anyway, that's what I learned about him. And they showed the game when he played against Justin Jefferson, when they kind of think of, see what the other guy's doing compared to what he's doing. Justin Jefferson went up and grabbed the ball in between 2 players. Unbelievable catch. Amon Brown had a great game too, but it was just showing, the growth of this kid in as a wide receiver and a very unbelievable player as far as a wide receiver goes. So I think he's going to be one of the great ones too. I really do. I think he's a great wide receiver. So we push on to the guy that I was kind of disappointed in, the older wide receiver, Davante Adams. Davante Adams actually said that it's not about winning, it's about greatness. And he was talking about himself. Davante Adams is kind of going to the end of his career, and he seemed more concerned about himself than the team, especially in the beginning. He was very upset with the quarterbacks and the way the team was being run. Of course, we know the head coach got fired. And then Antonio Pierce came aboard, and he kind of turned a little bit more into a team player. And he was talking about it, it's getting late in my career. I don't know how much longer I can be. He seemed really into himself more than any of the wide receivers out there. And that kind of bothered me a little bit. Totally opposite of George Kittle.
Well, you got to look at a situation. He was a team player at Green Bay when he had Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. All was fine. He had a Hall of Fame career at Green Bay. He went for the money to the Raiders. You get the feeling he wanted to get out of Green Bay for whatever reason. And maybe there was a little tension, him and Rodgers, there. We'll never know what the truth is on that for sure. So he goes to the Raiders because their quarterback is Derek Carr, his college quarterback. And then the Raiders move on from Derek Carr. And in a way, Davante Adams probably felt betrayed. That was his guy. And what's his alternative? Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew? That's awful. That's awful. That's taking a guy from a fancy office. He's working in an office building. He has a fancy office to this little dumpy office down the hallway when nothing is going on. And he's unhappy there. How can he be happy? Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball now?
Well,
come on.
Really, this was based off last year. So what it was Jimmy G. That's who it was. That was who the quarterback was for him. And he was not happy.
He was injured good part of the year.
He was not happy with Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback. As Jack said, he was injured, and they didn't have any kind of rhythm together because they, of course, he was injured and he couldn't get out there and practice with him. And you showed Davante Adams very, very frustrated. If they did not keep Antonio Pierce, I don't know if Davante Adams would be there right now. He did enjoy the culture change with the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. So, in fact, he stood up for Antonio Pierce too when they were talking.
It's also the Raiders situation. If you're going to trade Davante Adams, you're really not going to get a lot of value back in return. The Raiders would have traded him, I think, for a number 1 pick. Number 1 and a number 4. I'm just throwing something out there. But teams are reluctant to give up high draft picks. They really, really are. And I don't think you'd have a team out there who I'm pretty sure you wouldn't, who would give a number 1 draft choice for Davante Adams, because it's more than just giving up the pick. You inherit his salary, which hurts you at other positions because now you're dealing with the cap.
I don't think the Raiders were even thinking about trading Davante Adams, to be honest with you. Didn't mention that. He did meet with Aaron Rodgers during the season. Of course, there was a lot of talk that maybe they were talking about him coming back, and that wasn't what the case was. They just met for dinner. It was great seeing him. He said he needed that. He needed to just get away from the Raiders for a while and talk to his old friend. And so that it was interesting. I just was kind of disappointed in the amount of Davante Adams, and especially in the beginning. And as I said, it did change eventually when Antonio.
Well, you look at the Raiders team; they moved on from Josh Jacobs, their outstanding running back. He's the guy on the offensive unit. He's the best player and the leader by far. They got Brock Bowers now, who I think is going to be an outstanding tight end, who can only help Davante Adams because he'd take a little of the pressure off him when they'd be on the field at the same time. But it's tough when you're a veteran like that and you don't see any serious hope of going to the Super Bowl. You really don't want to be there. It's not when he went to the Raiders from the Packers, when he left the Packers, that's not what he signed up for, what he thought was going to happen. And he's a little disillusioned. It's human nature. It's like going to a new job. You leave one job to go to another job and you see, this job isn't what I thought it was going to be, and you're not that happy. It happens in life outside of football.
Yeah. I just, again, it was just the opposite of Kittle, and I understand he's on a losing team, and I understand, that he went there for Derek Carr, and Derek Carr is gone. But anyway, it's a pretty good series if you want to watch it. Good morning, CJ. Glad to have you in this morning. But anyway, it's a pretty good series. I didn't think it would be as good as it was. Let's put it that way. When I first watched it. So anyway, the Atlanta Falcons owner comes out and speaks out about the draft situation. He says he doesn't care what the rest of the league says. They're their own thinkers, and he's happy with what they did with of course, Kirk Cousins. And, signing them and then drafting Penix Jr. for the future. He says Kirk Cousins is doing great. He's has outstanding attitude. He's our franchise quarterback for now. He also said that Kirk Cousins knew beforehand that they were going to draft a quarterback. So he's kind of calling Kirk Cousins out a little bit there, where Kirk Cousins said he didn't know about it until the day of the draft. According to the owner, that's not true.
You have a lot of draft picks. Listen, the Jets drafted a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers doesn't feel threatened. I mean,
it's first round, Jack. It's not the same.
In the fifth round, I know that's the difference. They could have mentioned to Kirk Cousins, yeah, we're going to draft after they gave him the big money. Yeah, we're going to draft a quarterback. And Kirk Cousins is thinking, I'll take a guy in the later rounds, like a project, a guy far into the future. Kirk Cousins never would have went to the Falcons had he known they were going to draft the quarterback with their first selection, number 8 overall.
And I think Aaron Rodgers was annoyed when Jordan Love was drafted. But he just
Jordan Love. No, I'm not talking about Jordan Love with the Packers. I'm talking about the Jets this year.
Gotcha.
They drafted a quarterback in the 5th round. I don't think he hardly gave it any thought.
Right.
You know, injured quarterback, Jordan Travis from Florida. So I think, it's a different way you draft a guy. That's the whole difference. I mean, even Kirk Cousins was saying the other day, he was drafted in the 4th round. And he said, I was hardly noticed because in the same draft, the Washington Redskins drafted RG, 3 with the 2nd overall pick in the draft. So Kirk Cousins kind of slipped under the radar. No one was expecting him to play. No one was expecting him to compete for the job, but he was what was known as a value pick. He was too good to pass up at the time they were drafting in the 4th round, and that's why they took him. I mean, it happened with the Jets many years ago when they took Chad Pennington, number 18 overall. They had Vinny Testaverde. They didn't want a quarterback, but at number 18, it was just too much value to pass up, and teams sometimes do that.
Well, like I said, according to the owner, Kirk Cousins knew they were going to draft. They were going to draft a quarterback high in the draft, too, according to the owner. So that's what he says. So I guess he's calling, like I said.
Did they tell him 10 minutes before that he knew he was going to do it? I mean,
right, 10 minutes before. That's hilarious.
Yes, CJ, we did talk about the new kickoff rules early in the program. Coming up next, folks, we have a great little bit we do here. Just Ask Jack trivia. So I'm going to give you the trivia question here. Let's see. And let's see if Jack can come up with this. Again, I keep it in Jack's wheelhouse so he can have at least a chance at it. I'm not going to give him, I
have what's known in boxing as a puncher's chance. Meaning,
yes. I'm not going to give
a long shot.
I'm not going to ask him who the Canton Bulldogs running back was in 1922. I'm not going to do that to him. I'm going to give him a question that's a little more modern that he should know. And of course, Jack can go back to the 50s.
Canton Bulldogs, they play in Ohio.
Yes, well, there you go. All right, so but that's not the question. That's not the question. Okay, here it is, Jack. Okay, and wait till after the break before you give the answer. I'm going to give you plenty of time to answer this. Which quarterback holds the record for the most consecutive games with a touchdown, Jack? That's going to be as we go through. That's going to be after the commercial break. We'll come back. I trust Jack. I know he won't.
I know it.
I ain't asking you, James, right? Okay. So, anyway.
James is my backup. If I miss it, he gets it. I get credit because we're like a team.
Yes, exactly.
It goes on my record, So
exactly. So, anyway, after the break, we'll get the answer from Jack. And if Jack can't get it right, well, then we'll talk to James and see and see if he's got the right answer. James, stop. Just stop right now. Okay, that's all I got to say to you. All right, so here we go, folks.
Now, why wait till after the break?
Because this is what it's called a tease, Jack. This is a tease. So we will be right back after these breaks, after these messages. To get National Streaming Sports on Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports, tap on our logo. On laptop, tablet, or mobile phone, download the free Roku app, channel search, tap on our logo. For smart TV, order the Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your TV, channel search National Streaming Sports, and tap on the logo. After adding the Roku channel National Streaming Sports, this is our Roku site. You can click on the live stream to see what show is playing, or go to the VOD category, weekly schedule, click on the day, and it will give you all the shows scheduled for that day. The Monday live show lineup on our Roku channel. Mac-Jack Sports at 8 a.m. Eastern. Coffee and Sports at 9 a.m. Eastern. 10 a.m., Mac-Jack Sports. At 11 a.m., Ken and Ken in the morning. At 12 p.m., Coast to Coast. At 2 p.m., The Big Football Show. At 4 p.m., Snake Sports. At 6 p.m., The Man Cave. At 7 p.m., Glove Fist. At 8 p.m. Eastern, Sports Scope. At 9 p.m. Eastern, start spreading the news.
If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast.
I was gonna go ahead and run a few more promotions, but I want to get back to the trivia question for Jack. And of course, here is the question: which quarterback holds the record for the most consecutive games with a touchdown? Jack, go ahead and take a swing at it and see what you got.
If I don't get it right, I'll be in the mix at least. I'll be close. What pops into your head immediately, most consecutive games with a TD, would have to be someone who's played a long time, number one. Okay? A long time. And it would have to be really one of the better quarterbacks in NFL history. One of the better quarterbacks. I know it's not Tom Brady, so I eliminated him. I know Peyton Manning has had some negative games. Immediately it popped into my head, who's really unstoppable in that way? And I have no evidence. I never heard this question before. If I did, I'd put it out of my mind. But I'd say Dan Marino. That would be the guy. I would say Dan Marino. How do you keep Dan Marino from getting a touchdown during a game? But, we'll see.
I know James knows the answer, and I thought he was going to give it away since he does know the answer because he's a Saints fan. Drew Brees is number one.
It had to be a great quarterback who's played a long time. Yeah.
I definitely.
Drew Brees would have been on my radar. He would have been on my radar if you said next. I don't know what I have said Drew Brees, but he would have been on my short list. Yeah.
And followed by Tom Brady at 52, Peyton Manning at 51, and believe it or not, Johnny Unitas at 47.
What's Dan Marino on that? I'm a little surprised.
He's not in the top four. In fact, Drew Brees comes in again, I think, after Johnny Unitas, if I read it right.
Wait, is this only regular season? Because Unitas' Colts was shut out in the 1964 NFL Championship game.
The question again, Jack, was that was the question right there. Which quarterback holds the record for the most consecutive games with a TD? So if you didn't go to the playoffs, it would have to start again, I would imagine, the following year. So anyway, Drew Brees is
regular season, yeah.
Anyway, so that's the answer. United shows up in the top four, which just goes to show you you can't keep those old quarterbacks down. So there you go. A good
one, James. If being a Saints fan, he should be disqualified. If it's
I thought he was going to give it away when he said, "I know." I'm like, James, stop, please stop.
I wasn't going to say anything. I wanted to wait.
Yeah, but that's just that hint. I mean, but see, it's great thing because Jack thinks in his mind he doesn't listen to what anybody else is saying, so he's ready to make his next point. So it did work out for the best. So anyway, guys, we should be having our two scheduled guests coming up here pretty quickly. Let's talk a little bit about DeAndre. Well, some news here. DeAndre Hopkins is out 4 to 6 weeks for the Titans. As Jack mentioned, DJ Moore gets $110 million four-year contract, $82 million guaranteed. That's a big contract for DJ Moore. Let's see. Geno Smith is not practicing. I just talked to one of our podcast hosts who was down in Seattle this morning, I think. So that would be 3 practices in a row. I know he went for imaging. So there's no words. They're being tight-lipped in Seattle about what could be wrong with Geno Smith. If Geno Smith doesn't play, what are the Seattle Seahawks' chances of going to the playoffs?
Well, even if Geno Smith does play, I wouldn't think it would be that good. But he's better than Sam Howell, their backup there. So,
is he? We'll find out.
Listen, when the Commanders drafted Jaden Daniels and they moved on from Sam Howell, we'd hear, well, it's not Sam Howell's fault. He had no blocking there, no this, no that. Okay, it's with another team. You're giving him another chance, and he's struggling there at Seattle. So.
Yeah, listen. I don't think Howell, I think, was one of the leaders in yardage last year as a quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was.
You're trying to make a case for him. Why would they move on from him? He's a young quarterback.
Because they wanted Jaden
He
Daniels.
was-
They want Jaden Daniels. I don't blame them about that, right? I mean, I don't blame.
They would, if Jaden Daniels wasn't available, they would have drafted another quarterback, the Commanders. It was
Well,
more
you know,
Sam Howell's situation.
I say coming up, AFC Talk with some special guests. We already got one in. We're going to bring him on. Randy Lange. He's been on the show before. Works with the Jets PR department. I say he's the head guy over there. He's humble. He says he's not. I think he's the head guy over there. So let's bring in Randy. See how he's doing today. How you doing today, Randy?
Gentlemen, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine, loud and
All
clear.
right. So we have a good connection, which is important when we're asking questions, right? I mean, I don't want to, anyway. So Randy, the Jets, and we're gonna talk about maybe some expectations compared to what you think can happen. Of course, we have to start off with what happened last year with Aaron Rodgers getting injured, and I guess maybe in hindsight, the Jets should have probably gotten themselves an experienced backup just in case something happened to Aaron Rodgers. That's 2020 hindsight, and it looks like they took care of it this year, Randy.
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, I think everybody anticipated Zach Wilson was going to be that backup, and obviously that didn't work out to the best. The best expectations that everybody had, including Zach, I'm sure. And of course, he's no longer there. But it seemed like a good plan, I thought, because Zach certainly did show some flashes, but certainly not enough. And so he's now in Denver, I guess, right? So they brought in Tyrod Taylor, and I've always respected him. I think all Jet fans know of him when he was with the Bills, and he put up some very fine games against the Jets back in the day. And as he's gone through his career, he's shown that he's almost kind of like a backup Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, just because of the great touchdown to interception ratio. The guy does not turn the ball over, and he does throw some touchdown passes and does lead touchdown drives. Not quite as good as Aaron Rodgers has in his prime, but still, Tyrod fits in well with the group. Seems like he's a great team player, ready to do whatever's asked of him. He knew he was coming in to back up Aaron Rodgers, and that's what he's doing, and he's looking pretty good behind Aaron Rodgers is looking pretty good so far.
I think this, everybody talks about some of the moves you made. I think this was one of the most important moves you made, especially with we don't know, Aaron Rodgers seems to look healthy in training camp, but we really don't know until he starts getting hit in the regular season how well, the ACL is going to be. He's 40 years old. I mean, we've never seen an injury like this and that old of a player and see what happens. I think Tyrod Taylor, is maybe under the radar. I think, I saw what he did for the Giants at the end of the year. He still has it, and he has mobility. And if Aaron Rodgers gets knocked out for maybe 2 or 3 games or whatever, at least you got a competent quarterback back there, Randy. And that's one of the most important things in NFL today.
Yeah, absolutely. You need somebody who can come in and win those 2 or 3 games, or at least 2 out of 3. I mean, just keep the team moving. And right now, there's a good vibe about the offense. I mean, there was probably last year, although it turned sour, obviously not only because of Aaron Rodgers leaving for the season very early after 4 plays on the Monday night game against Buffalo, but the offensive line obviously did not sustain its health, and there were other issues. And this year, that does not yet seems to be like the line is going to be a very good line as long as you got your Tyron Smith and you got your Morgan Moses, and John Simpson came in and teaming up with Joe Tippmann and Elijah Vera Tucker. I mean, that's a good line if they can keep it together, and if they can protect Aaron, then you've got that opportunity to to turn Aaron Rodgers loose, to protect him, to to do all you want to do with Breece Hall, with obviously Garrett Wilson, and they're still waiting for Mike Williams to come off the PUP list, and he's going to be I think a very fine addition once we get to see what he's got. But I think he's still a few days away, certainly, from doing that. But right now, the vibe in the offense is very good, and everything about Aaron Rodgers points to, you're right. We don't know until we see him in action, and we may not see him in the preseason in action at all. And if we do, it might be for like 1 or 2 series against the Giants in the finale. But we're going to probably see him for the first time at San Francisco on opening night. But everybody says, including Aaron, including Robert Saleh, including all the players, he's doing well. Aaron says he's not quite finished with his complete rehab process, but it's getting there. Robert Saleh says he sees no difference. He sees no issues when he watches Aaron. So, I mean, everything seems to be, all systems go. And that's a very good thing because the defense, as we know, is the top 5 unit in the NFL.
So let's talk a little bit about there was some kind of exchange between Aaron Rodgers and Wilson, your wide receiver, and there also was a episode where the defense, I guess, ran an offensive lineman back in Aaron Rodgers, and he ended up on the ground. They stepped on his foot. Something happened where that happened. Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy. He was kind of, yelling at the players a little bit or talking firmly, loudly. And I think that's might have been when Wilson and him kind of went at it a little bit. They say it doesn't mean anything. I'm listening to Aaron Rodgers after that and Wilson after that. It happens on the training camp. But it is magnified because he's Aaron Rodgers and he's in New York. And, I mean, we really don't know what was said. But, I mean, this is, I guess, part of the growing process with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and their players.
Yeah, I think it's a natural development in training camp, although it is interesting that Garrett Wilson, is having some, maybe seemed like they were heated discussions with Aaron Rodgers, but both of them said, hey, it's no big deal. I mean, we're going over stuff. We're passionate players. And so, I mean, I'll take them at their word. I mean, Garrett Wilson is not a problem guy by any means. I mean, he's a team player, and he's put together 2 very fine first 2 seasons with the Jets. I think the thing is everybody is, they're on edge now because they know that they've got this offense that can produce some great things. I mean, Rodgers to Wilson, I mean, that could be. I mean, I don't want to get people's hopes up too high, but Garrett Wilson could eclipse Brandon Marshall's 2015 season, which is the best receiver season in Jets history, if all things fall correctly. So, there is that element. Yes, so Aaron did get his foot stepped on. He wasn't happy about it. But I think, as you say, everything's magnified. I mean, the fact that he missed those last 2 practices of the veteran mandatory minicamp was under the spotlight. I mean, I don't think there's been any fallout from that. There certainly didn't seem to be. And so it's like, well, I mean, that's just life in the Big Apple. I mean, under the glare of the Monday night spotlights or whatever. So I think that it's good to see. I mean, that they're passionate, and as long as there's no rifts or anything on the team, I think we're just seeing a very good team. Hopefully, get out the bugs and the kinks and get ready for what they hope to be that season that they hope to have last year.
So there has been a little, I guess you could say there was a little bit of distraction with your new outside linebacker, Jason Reddick, coming over, wanting an extension. The Philly sports guy, let's welcome him in here. He's, of course, a big booster of the Philadelphia Eagles and all Philadelphia sports. He comes from Philadelphia. It looked like Philadelphia might have had a heads up of there was going to be a problem with this guy and kind of sent him to you. And there were, from what I've read, Randy, there have been contract talks. The Jets trying to sweeten the pot a little bit. But as of now, Hassan Reddick does not want to hear about these things. You already have a good defense. This could add a little bit more element to your pass rush. The Jets already do have a good defense. What do you think is going to happen here? Do the Jets cave in and maybe give him the extension or give him a couple years, or do they stand their ground and say, "Listen, this is the deal. You got a contract. Play or don't play. It's up to you."
Well, I think Joe Douglas has shown that he's going to play ball with people to a certain degree. If Hassan Reddick wants to play, I mean, he's going to have to come in, I think. I don't see that the trade would be like nullified or anything. I mean, this is a good thing for the Jets defense, and it's unfortunate that Hassan's not here yet. But I think he will get there, and he will make that defense better. You know, they lost John Franklin Myers in free agency, and Carl Lawson was cut or let go, let's say, to find another team. They can use that edge rusher presence, but they've got Jermaine Johnson. They've got a Will McDonald who they're hoping will make the leap in year 2 that Jermaine Johnson did last year to become a Pro Bowler. And so, I think there's a good feeling that Hassan, come on in, because this is a very good defense. You'd like to be a part of it. We need you. You need us. Let's get it.
Randy, I think it might be a situation with Hassan Reddick. He's a veteran. Maybe he just doesn't want to be at camp. Maybe he's thinking, I'm going to sign about a week before the season. I'm going to keep in shape. I'm going to be ready. I don't want to go through the rigors of training camp. So he's negotiating, so understanding, look, the Jets will probably tweak my contract a little if I lose a little in fine money, as long as they guarantee my money for the season, which I think the Jets would ultimately give into for this season, maybe guarantee his money because he doesn't have a guaranteed contract right now. He'll show up right before the season begins. I think he doesn't want to be there kind of by design, not because he's upset.
That's been known to happen in the NFL, right? So, I mean, that could be a part of it too. But I think, the upsides for both parties is just too high. I mean, he's going to get paid at some point. I don't know anything about the machinations of the negotiations that are ongoing, but I've heard they are ongoing. And so we'll see how it shakes out. But, Hassan does need to get in soon because, I mean, you can work out on your own all you want, but I think NFL players have also discovered over the years that only goes so far. You need to get in with your teammates. You need to coordinate. You need to learn to, get all the intricacies of your new system. And so, I see it happening soon, but I have no inside information for you on that. So we'll just have to all wait and see.
Well, I mean, listen, they're running it back this year because of the injury, Randy. What happens if it doesn't work out? What happens if the offense, Aaron Rodgers gets too much pressure? The offensive line doesn't do its job. Maybe Aaron Rodgers isn't what he was a few years ago. We don't know. He hasn't played in over a year. And it just goes 7-10 again. Say they have a losing record or they don't make the playoffs. I mean, what do you think happens next? I know you work for the team. You don't want to speak bad about anybody there, but the Jets are going to have to consider some different options if that happens, because that's going to be the third year in a row that they finish below 500.
That's right, and that would not be in the Robert Saleh resume, because he had two. I think they were 2 losing years, but they were 2 so-so years with the Niners as their coordinator. And then year 3, they took off. So the defense is certainly on schedule, but the offense and the team has not gotten there yet. So there will be that pressure. But, I mean, I think Robert Saleh can handle it. I mean, I don't think he's going to, spit the bit here because the team gets off to a bad start or they don't make the playoffs. But then it's going to be up to Woody Johnson and the Jets hierarchy to say, all right, what's the deal here? I mean, are we still good with Robert and with Joe Douglas as the GM? I mean, Joe Douglas has had some very fine moments, and then there's some, acquisitions that haven't worked out as well. But I mean, I think he's done a very good job in retrospect. I mean, just looking at the 2022 draft, I mean, that was phenomenal. I mean, they're going to feed off of that for for many years, hopefully. So I don't really, again, have any inside information. I mean, I'm not hearing any rumblings or anything. I think Robert Saleh is a good coach, and I think he could survive another season as long as there are reasons for what happened. And last year's reasons were definitely the offensive line's health and just a lot of situations. Zach Wilson's issues, and then the backup quarterback Rodgers. Those seem to have been cured. So I mean, I think everybody is saying, all right, listen, the NFL, you're hired to be fired, but let's take one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And I don't think there's any hesitation in anybody on the Jets right now. They feel quietly, I think a little more quiet this year than last year, because there was a lot of vibe last year. This year, the NFL is rewarding them with even more primetime games. I guess it's a reward, but sometimes it's not. But they have even more primetime games this year. But I think the Jets, Saleh, his coaching staff, the players have taken just a little down a notch or two. And I think that's a good thing as they approach the season, because there are still great things expected from them and by them.
You make a great point, Randy. Last year, the expectations were anything short of the Super Bowl would be a disappointment. I think the expectations aren't as high with the Jet fan base. I think if the team makes the playoffs for the first time in ages and even gets eliminated in the first game, goes in as a wild card, Jet Nation won't be happy, but it's going to be considered at least minimally acceptable this season. They won't look at it as a failure if the Jets get to the playoffs. Last year, that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, that's right. And really, they do need to, make the playoffs. I mean, nobody's issuing any ultimatums, at least not, publicly. But I think everybody knows this is the year they need to end that drought. And hey, it's a tough but fair schedule. I think the Jets can make some hay in the early part of the schedule after they get past the tough San Francisco opener. They got a chance, they got at Tennessee, then they got New England. They get a chance to finally beat up on New England at home, maybe, because they did at least give Bill Belichick a going away present last year in Foxborough. So there's a lot of good things there. The schedule looks pretty good until you get towards the second half of the season. I should say, though, that it's a very strange schedule because the Jets do not have the same number of days between any two games for like the first 12 weeks of the season. If you wanted a calm, a predictable schedule where you could, set things out and do it the same way every week and approach games that way, that's fine. Every week, the Jets are going to have a different schedule to get ready for either a Monday night game, a Thursday night game, a Sunday night game, the Sunday morning game, at least here in London. So there's a lot of things that are certainly in the way, but I think it's, like I said, a tough but fair schedule, and I think the Jets can't, if they're the team that they think they are and that we seem to be seeing so far in the preseason, they're a team that can handle this and end that playoff drought.
I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to be quiet for a little while. Game one, they play the 49ers, the Jets. And the feeling is, okay, we'll lose game one. That's a tough game. San Francisco. We'll win game two at Tennessee, and then we'll get to be rolling. Can you imagine game one at San Francisco? Aaron Rodgers lights it up. The Jets beat the Niners. You know the level of excitement that's going to be created with the Jet fan base if they actually beat the 49ers game one and Rodgers looks like his old self.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, right out of the gate, the Jets are going to be tested, but there's no reason they can't feel like they can go in and compete. I mean, it's going to be a tough venue. But,
Randy, Jack is a huge Jets fan, so that's why he's saying that. But the only thing I want to remind Jack of and all the Jet fans is Rodgers does not have a great history with the San Francisco 49ers. I'll tell you that right now. And Jack has even mentioned maybe he's not starting Aaron Rodgers for game one, just because he might get hurt. So anyway, Randy, thank you for coming in. We're going to let you go. Great insight. Handled all the questions. really well, and we'll have you back on if you're available. Maybe we'll get you in maybe for week 1 or after the. Go ahead, James. You got a question?
Yeah, just one question. What's considering you mentioned that the offensive line has been revamped and is solid now? What are your expectations for Breece Hall having a breakout year this year?
Well, I mean, Breece Hall has done everything that you could hope for and more so far, except got hurt in his rookie season. I think it was Game 7 in Green Bay, or was it Denver? I forget. But last year, he actually was kind of on a pitch count early, and he still produced at a very high level. The kid he's not cocky, but he's really confident, as you probably know if you see any of his tweets or his Facebook stuff or his TikTok or Instagram. I mean, the kid, he's a social media guy, and he's very confident, but he has shown the ability. I mean, he had 1,500 yards from scrimmage last year. He almost got to 1,000 rushing, didn't quite get there. He led the NFL backs in receptions and receiving yardage. He has, I think it's 6 70-yard plays already in a year and a half with the Jets, which ties the franchise record for a career. And he's only starting year 3, actually year 2.5. So, I mean, everything about this kid is just, it seems like he is, he's the next, whatever, Curtis Martin, Freeman McNeil, can he get there? Well, those are tall, buildings to scale. But I think that he's got the ability to become one of the best running backs in Jets history if he can stay healthy. And, as long as he's confident but not cocky. And so, yeah, I like what he can present this season, especially as Aaron Rodgers seeks to play off of him with the passing game, and then also use Breece Hall and Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, the rookies that they brought in, and others in as receivers and not just as checkdowns. They'll be in the receiving game as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, I love the potential and season ahead for Breece Hall.
Yeah, listen, it's a 3-team race in the AFC East this year. Buffalo, Miami, you guys. I think you guys have a really good shot at winning the division this year. With Buffalo hurting a little bit, Miami seems to have problems in cold weather at the end of the season. So I really think you guys got a really good chance, and this might be your big shot. I don't agree with Jack and you so much that they just have to make the playoffs. I think this is a Super Bowl team, and I think if they don't get at least an NFC Championship game, a lot of Jet fans are going to be upset. But, I mean, 7-10 for the last 3, haven't been in the playoffs in a while. I mean, I think you guys will at least get there for the playoffs. I expect big things out of the Jets this year. I really do. With the team you guys got defensively and offensively, and with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And like I said, Tyrod Taylor is one of the better backups, I think, in the league. So I expect you guys will do well. So, Randy, again, go ahead, Randy.
No, I was just going to say I agree with you that they do need to go further, but they need to get there first. So, I mean, I'll take the drought ending, and then let's see what damage they can do from there. And I think it can be considerable, but it's the NFL, so we'll see how all the chips fall and if the health remains good, and Aaron Rodgers is not icing his Achilles down because all of a sudden it's got some irritation. Hopefully, none of that happens, and they move all the way to where they want to go, which is New Orleans.
Well, that would be outstanding. Randy, again, thanks for coming in. We'll definitely get back in touch with you, talk to you before the season or after the 49ers game would be excellent, just for you to take a look at that. Maybe we'll definitely keep in touch and see when you're available, Randy. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, don't call me on Tuesday after that game because I won't be awake.
Okay.
We'll do it. We'll do it then.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one, Randy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, folks. So we brought you a little AFC right from their PR department with the Jets. And, of course, the Jets are expected to do big things. Welcome in again, Philly sports guy. Pags, glad that you made it in this week, Pags. Glad to see you. Let me get your thoughts. You were quiet, which I was surprised during the interview. I saw you roll your eyes a couple times. What do you think? What do you think about the Jets? I mean, listen, Randy Lange is close to the team. He's a part of the PR machine over there. He's very good at what he does, and he's very honest. I mean, he was very honest about some of the questions I asked. He didn't backpedal any question I really asked him. Of course, he thinks the team's going to do good, like every front office would. I mean, what do you think about the Jets' chances, Pat?
I think that it's going to be a more difficult year than everyone thinks. I feel like that the pundits that are picking them to go to the Super Bowl are uh, really, really doing pie in the sky stuff with them. I kind of think that they are second best in that division, and and if they do make the playoffs, I see them maybe winning a game. I don't see them in the Super Bowl. I don't think that they have a strong enough offensive line yet. And I think that's going to still be the biggest Achilles heel for that team. You got Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they've already had a problem where they stepped on his foot. It's like at that point, it's like, well, maybe you should have fixed the one thing that really needed to be fixed, and that was the offensive line. And you didn't do it. So now you're going to.
Pags, well, who you know about on the Jets, Hassan Riddick and Engle all those years, he's holding out. You know his personality better than we do, or you'd have a better idea based on his history with the Eagles. What's the deal with this guy? Is he an eye guy? Is he a prima donna? Is he a team guy? What can we expect moving forward with the Jets with Hassan Riddick?
I guess to quote many singers just getting ready for to go out and perform me. I think that was the problem with him in Philadelphia. I think it didn't take very long to fester, and now he's kind of done the same thing in New York. And listen, the NFL's a tough business. You got to get your money when you can. And that's, I think, what he's doing. And he's a numbers guy. He wants to get his sacks. He wants to be able to go after the quarterback. And the Eagles system was no longer pushing that. So, and he started crying about it. Next thing you know, they traded him for a pack of peanuts, literally. And for somebody with that much talent to get traded to anybody for that small amount, with the guy who's got that much talent, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah. I listen. I would agree with that. The Buffalo Bills. We keep saying their window is going to closing. Is going to close. I'm done saying that now. I'm all done saying that. I mean, as long as they got Josh Allen there and they can put together a decent core wide receiver around him, his offensive line plays okay. Even if he doesn't, he'll run and make plays. I don't think that window ever closes as long as Josh Allen is healthy there. Like I said, I'm tired of saying that. He's just that good of a quarterback and that good of a playmaker that he's always going to be there. And Miami, who has all the talent, signing all the great players, comes wintertime, and we'll see what happens again. They're not built for the winter. They're built for a fast surface. They're built for warm weather. Pags, I think the Jets have good a shot as any one of those teams. I don't know if any one of those teams would make the championship. I'm not sure about that, but I think they got good as chances Buffalo and Miami, right?
No. I think that the offensive line is better in Miami. I think that the Jets are going to need to be absolutely carried by their defense. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to put more points on the board than the quarterbacks last year. But I think that the offensive line is still, like I said, the Achilles heel. And if he gets hurt, which is likely because he's 38, 39 years old, and he's got an offensive line that is Swiss cheese at best. And I think that that's going to come into play. And I think until they can resolve that issue, they are still behind. I think they're behind Miami. I don't know that they're behind Buffalo. I think Buffalo's biggest problem is their defense. You got a defensive coach there. You have Josh Allen who can put some points on the board. Putting points on the board has never been really their issue, but their defense has been lackluster at best. And I think that that's the problem. I think until you can stop somebody, you're supposed to be this big defensive guru. Well, until you can stop somebody, you're not going to go anywhere. And, so I think you have two different problems. Buffalo is defense. I think you have the offensive line for the Jets. And I think out of all three of those teams, Miami is just better in those departments.
I'm just saying, Pags. I don't think they're built for the cold weather. They'll have to get out to a big lead. I don't think they can make it in cold weather. They better get a home game. They better get home games because I don't think they're good in cold weather at all. So we're going to take a quick look at the NFC North division. Listen, I think this division is going to be maybe the best in the NFC this year. I think with the Lions, how good they were last year, I don't think they're going to lose anything. You got the Packers who made a big thing. The Vikings have signed who they need to sign, and the Bears have a lot of weapons. It's just the rookie quarterback. So let's start with Pags. Pags, what are your thoughts on the NFC North? Who's going to finish where? Why? I mean, it's really early, so I mean we'll probably be revisiting this again. But after seeing what happened in the off season with free agents and the draft and any news that you've seen. Who do you think is going to place where and why?
I got Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, and Minnesota in that order. I think Minnesota stinks out loud. I think their quarterback is not going to be able to perform very well because he's going to be put with too much in too little time. I think Chicago, same type of situation. I think Caleb Williams is not going to be as advertised. He's going to, they're going to get a couple of wins, but they're still going to be at the bottom of the barrel. I think you got Green Bay. You have a quarterback over there who had 6 really good games, but that will take a step back from those 6 games initially, and then as the season goes on, will get better. And I think that they have enough talent that they should be able to make the playoffs. And then you have Detroit, which I believe is going to wind up at least in the NFC Championship game.
All right. Okay. That's fair. Jack, do you agree with that?
I'm not making my final picks yet, but I partially agree with it. Detroit should be in the mix, but are they going to take a little step back? 10-7 might be good enough to win that division. And are the Lions going to take a step back and be a 10-7 type team? When you lose the way they did in the NFC Championship game, when you're that close to the Lions going to the Super Bowl for the first time in their history, you let that type of lead get away. I think that stays with you to a degree, no matter what you say. I mean, just to get back to the position that they were at. And Green Bay, how much of a rising team are they? I mean, they nearly beat the 49ers in the playoffs just after beating the Cowboys. If the Packers are a team on an upswing, there's a good chance that they're going to win the division. I think Minnesota is going to be better than people think, but how much better? Are they going to be like 8-9, something like that? I don't think they're going to be one of the weaker teams in the NFL. I mean, they did get Aaron Jones from the Packers as their running back. They drafted Dallas Turner. They had a good draft overall. They had a tragedy, obviously, with the accident with one of their selections. And they have a good coach in Kevin O'Connell there. And the Bears, I still think they're work in progress. I know they're strong, with the weapons they put around Caleb Williams. But something about the Bears, they're kind of like still learning it as they go along. So I don't see them right now really being a threat to win that division.
James, what are your teams in order and why?
Okay. So I have Detroit finishing again at number 1. I have Green Bay second, Chicago third, and Minnesota last. Look, Detroit is still loaded on offense, and the whole team on both sides is relatively young. So I don't see why they can't, for the next few years, dominate that division. I like Green Bay. I like Jordan Love, and I like the coach, and I think they have really good things there. I mean, considering they really didn't have any big names on offense, they just picked up Josh Jacobs, and so that should ramp up their offense a little bit more with the run game. but I just still don't think nobody's going to take Detroit. I mean, they're great on both sides. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, they just drafted another guy to play on side of him. I forgot the guy's name, but man, I can't see anybody in that division taking them out again. And the quarterback's got experience, and he's just got him a new contract, along with Amon-Ra St. Brown got him a new contract. So they're all motivated. I mean, then you have a running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just really, to me, he's like the next Christian McCaffrey coming. He can run and he can catch out the backfield. He's pretty fast. Chicago, I think we're underselling Caleb Williams a little bit. I think the guy, they're putting some things around him to get him a good start. I kind of agree with Jack. Maybe 7 wins or 6 or 7 wins in that area to start off. But I think that's the start of the future there for their team. And Minnesota, there's still way too many questions, particularly at the quarterback, and a lot of missing pieces. They got Justin Jefferson and the other wide receiver, but I just don't see much going on there. There's just a question, too much of a question mark at quarterback there.
Let me ask you a question right now, and all of you guys, right? We have the Bears finishing ahead of the Vikings, and I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty close. I have a lot more faith, believe it or not, in the Vikings starting quarterback than I do Caleb Williams. I just do. He's got experience. He's Sam Darnold has been around the league. He did okay. He got hurt. He was starting for Carolina. He played a couple of games for San Francisco, looked good. Caleb Williams, we just don't know. I mean, I don't know how much to impress this on people. He hasn't played a game yet. And while he was talented somewhat in a weak division in college, he threw almost as many. I mean, he threw a lot of interceptions when he played good teams. He couldn't beat good teams, and that's not all his fault. That's USC too. I mean, we're talking. They're talking like Caleb Williams is going to be the next Aaron Rodgers. They're already starting to try to compare him to that. I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. I know he's got good weapons around him. So do a lot of quarterbacks. That doesn't mean he's going to be a great quarterback. I mean, we'll see. I still think Green Bay's a big question too. I mean, they had a great end of the season. There's a lot of teams that had great end of the seasons and put together 5 or 6 good games, but they didn't get the job done. I don't know how good Green Bay is. I know Detroit's a good team. I saw it last year. I know they're going to be good this year. They got an outstanding, motivating coach there. They got a good defense and a good offense. I don't see why the Lions don't win that division. The rest of the 3 teams, I got question marks on. Even with them, I got question marks on all 3 teams. I don't know. I know the Lions should be in first. Probably Green Bay, and either the Bears or Vikings are going to finish 3rd and 4th. So I mean, honestly, that's where I think they end up falling out. So anyway, a little bit about the lawsuit. The NFL did appeal the lawsuit for Sunday Ticket. They did win the appeal. So right now, it's up to the plaintiffs, all the businesses, and all the individuals that filed a lawsuit to appeal that decision. The judge found out that 2 witnesses I guess he didn't feel were viable, or whatever the question may be. Let's bring on Sonja. She's running a little late, but we'll bring her in anyway. How you doing, Sonja? Glad to have you. At least you made it.
Guys, I've been trying to log on since 9:05 mobilely and could not. So I had to wait till I got back to my destination. I'm so sorry. I had a baptism this morning of my nephew. So hi, everyone.
That's okay. Pags, I want to get you in here a little bit more. Any Philadelphia Eagle news? We'll have time to talk about some of the big things that happened over last night. Any Eagle news that's concerning you, or that the last thing I saw was the retirement of one of your great defensive linemen. I haven't seen anything coming out of the Eagles camp.
No, I don't have any news. I actually have more news about the Seahawks since I went to their practice yesterday.
There you go.
Because I happen to be in Seattle, which is why I look like I just woke up from going to sleep because I haven't slept much at all. It's way early here. So I went to their practice yesterday, and it was kind of interesting going to another team's practice that you don't really care about. So it was like they are very shoddy at best, and very undisciplined. I felt that the referees were allowing them to practice and trying their best not to throw flags at every play. And there were a couple of skirmishes that happened. Now, this is a public practice, and you're having skirmishes on the field. That tells me that there's maybe a little bit of dissension in the locker room because it was two specific skirmishes that had that wound up making like guys running from the sidelines going in to get into the fray. It was almost like a baseball game where benches were clearing and stuff. So it was odd to see that. I thought from like I like some chippiness, but I don't, not in a public setting. You keep that behind closed doors. And the fact that these guys were doing this in a live practice with everybody watching, you had that going on, and then the Blue Angels flying above us. So it was kind of interesting day all the way around. I felt like that the Seahawks might be in a little bit of trouble.
Interesting. Pags, I mean, today they let fans in the training camp for a lot of practices where a lot of time, well, not I'd say a lot, but it's more they let them into practices than they did in the past. I mean, some coaches like closed practices, for God's sakes. If you were at George Allen or some of these older time coaches. But I think, the fights happen. And I know it's out of frustration. It's out of, somebody trying to make the team and somebody, on the bubble. They're going to fight. I don't have a problem with that. But it's interesting to me what you say about maybe the undisciplined play, the unorganization, maybe. He's a new coach, Pags. You think that's going to affect a lot of the team going forward over it?
I think it all is going to affect. I mean, I think that when you have somebody that is as discipline-based as Pete Carroll was, yes, and then you have a new coach that's coming in. He's never coached before. He's a brand new coach. He's a little bit more of a player's coach, and he's a little bit more lax on that discipline. I think that you have maybe something similar to like the Cowboys situation where they're always being penalized. You may have as much talent as you have, but you're going to put yourself in bad situations all the time. Well, they don't have the talent that the Cowboys even have. So that's going to create wrong situations or bad situations for them that they're not going to get out of, that other teams are going to take advantage of.
I talked to Bo. Well, me and Bo text each other quite a bit. And I asked him, he was at the practice also, and I asked him if Geno Smith was out there, and he said no. And I did mention that Geno Smith has to go for imaging, that he has some kind of injury that
all came back negative.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, good. But he still didn't practice, which I would keep him off the field too. What do you think about their backup situation there, Pags, at quarterback?
They're going to put all the eggs in the basket of Geno Smith. Okay. Yeah, the quarterbacks were underwhelming at best.
Okay.
Like Sam Howell. Sam Howell looked like everything that you've seen from Sam Howell up to this point. And their other guy,
trying to remember his name,
Mars the Third or something like that. I think it's Mars the Third. It looks like he can run the ball a little bit. Yeah. But just doesn't have the eye for like when he's going to be a run first quarterback. He's not going to get to the second read if they're getting blitzes on him and things like that. And I think that's I don't know how well of a runner he is. It's hard to tell at that practice.
Well, Pags brings up the Dallas Cowboys situation, and I know we talk about it a lot. As we talked, another wide receiver gets a big contract, Tyreek Hill, and CeeDee Lamb is still sitting out there with no contract yet. Sonja, I mean, you got three players. all maybe equally important. Of course, Dak's a quarterback, has a little bit more importance, I think, on the hierarchy anyway. But CD Lamb is a big part of their offense, and he's not going to get fined. I mean, he's a rookie under a rookie contract. They can do what they want, but when he signs, all that fines are gone because that's one of the clauses in the agreement between the Players Association and the NFL. So he can sit out for as long as he wants, and he's not going to get those fines are going to disappear. What do you think happens there, Sonia?
I have no idea why Dallas is waiting so long to solidify CeeDee Lamb's contract. Like, he really is a great wide receiver. He's a hot commodity. He's very well needed and respected in the locker room. And Dak really needs him. I mean, I know that they even spent money to bring Ezekiel Elliott back. I don't know what that's about because I've heard his better days are behind him. They should have been using that money that they used to go and bring Ezekiel Elliott back to add to whatever they were giving to CeeDee Lamb. I wouldn't be surprised. I know we're kind of eking towards the ninth hour here, the nth hour. If they're not careful, they may possibly lose CeeDee Lamb. I do not have that completely off the table. I know that may be shocking, but my thing is he is holding out. I like that the Players Association do have that clause in there that, hey, if you're not signed, you do what you want to do. You don't have to come because, I mean, why hold him to that if they haven't even ascertained the appropriateness of, giving him this contract that he so desperately has deserved? His numbers look good. He's been very well, a great player on and off the field. We haven't heard a lot of drama that we have around some of these other players, especially like Tyreek Hill has now gotten his money and he's been surrounded by drama off and on for quite a while now. I really, hope that CeeDee Lamb gets the team that can actually appreciate him. I'm not, like I said, I won't be shocked if Dallas just continues to drag their feet. Jerry Jones went on the record a couple of days ago and was quoted talking about Dak Prescott and just basically saying he's here this year, whatever that's supposed to mean. So the writing's not on the wall as of yet with CeeDee Lamb.
Let me ask you all a question. Jerry Jones said there's a lot of owners. Well, there's some owners that don't care about winning, but of course he's talking about the other owners. I don't understand why Jerry Jones doesn't sign the players that are available. I mean, he didn't bring in any free agents. The draft players are a minimum contracts for whatever they can get there. I mean, it's not big numbers. Does Jerry Jones care about winning anymore? Is he trying to sabotage his own team to get rid of Mike McCarthy? I don't understand.
Mac, he definitely wants his team to lose so he could fire Mike McCarthy. You nailed it, Mac. Very good.
What other reason? Give me another reason.
So this gives him a reason to fire Mike McCarthy because he wouldn't be allowed to fire Mike McCarthy otherwise because he's only the owner.
Give me a reason. Then give me a reason why he's not doing what he should be doing.
He doesn't have any money.
He's got his big three. He's got to deal with Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. He's got to deal with those signings. If you bring in other guys, you won't have the money to give them. Apparently, he really wants to sign those three. He doesn't want to make Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in football history because Dak doesn't deserve it. I mean, he's a very good quarterback who would be gobbled up by a team like the Las Vegas Raiders.
So Dak doesn't deserve it, but Jordan Love does. Trevor Lawrence does. What are you talking about, Jack? That's what the market is, man. And I think Pash was doing tongue in cheek when he says he has no money. He has the most money. His team is worth more than any other football team in the world.
I don't mean it like that. He ain't got no money on the cap. They can't do the signings because they don't have the cap space.
You can restructure contracts. They do it all the time. Teams that don't have money.
Not when you are stuck. He has got $65 million that he's stuck with cap hit on Dak alone. He's got like $20 million on Zeke Elliott, and that's not even the contract that he's here on. It's the contract from before. He's got so much weirdo dead money.
So he's got dead money. Go ahead. So he's got dead money, Pags, and so do other teams. Let me ask you a question. It's what I forget what the figure is. It's $280 something million, right? That the new salary cap.
284.8.
All right. So you gave me about 80 million of dead cap that they have there. You're going to tell me that they can't do it?
That's 80 million, just two guys. It's two guys. There's still 51 other guys that are still on that team that now have to deal with the 200 million.
Pags, they can't do incentives. They can't do signing bonuses. They can't do what other teams do.
Listen, it's not. We have one of the best capologists on our side. Howie Roseman, who works magic doing these things, but they don't have Howie Roseman over there. So they have done mistake after mistake after mistake when it comes to signing these guys, and not have had the ability to be able to maneuver money. Dak has not wanted to play the same card as he doesn't get all the endorsements that everybody else does, where all the other money's coming in so that he can restructure his contract. He needs the contract. So, I mean, and that's been sort of the problem. I think that they have been overzealous with their guys. They've given them too much money for past performance that hasn't done anything that other than get them to the divisional round of the playoffs. And I think it's been a recurring theme with them for the last 20 some years.
That's a great point.
No, Mac, everyone, it's about being all in on a quarterback. You mentioned Jordan Love, Mac. The Packers are all in on him for the future, 100% committed. The Jacksonville Jaguars are all in on Trevor Lawrence, 100%. Cowboys aren't quite that way with Dak Prescott. The jury's still out to a tiny extent whether they want him to be their quarterback 4 or 5 years from now. They're not sure. They're not quite ready to make that gigantic commitment. I can't say I blame them. Dak Prescott is good, but his upside, maybe we've seen it already.
I think you should just pay CeeDee Lamb right now and let the other two guys ride the season out.
Yep.
I mean, I guess. I
like Micah Parsons, James, more than CeeDee Lamb. I think that's the biggest signing, but that's just my opinion.
Pags, I want the Cowboys to sign everybody, all three players for 5 years, $500 million, and just destroy the Cowboys. That's what I want.
Hey, I'm right there with you. Actually, I think Micah Parsons becomes an Eagle next year.
I know you do. Where else would he go back? I mean, he would be an Eagle.
We're hearing Pags. Wait.
He has ties to Philadelphia. Go ahead, Jeff.
Wait. I got a beef with Pags. We're hearing that Pags is gloating that the Eagles got rid of Hassan Reddick. The Jets have him. We have him as a problem. Well, you got Bryce Huff and Vince Fangio, your defensive coordinator's exasperated because he's struggling to fit in within the Eagles scheme.
Who?
Bryce.
You just said Bryce Huff. Well, listen, they're always going to. Fangio is a tough guy to work for, from what I understand. So, and they're going to rotate players in and out of there. So I think that this is probably some tough love from Fangio kind of thing. Hey, listen, he wants guys to be able to play out there, and if you ain't playing well enough, you ain't going to be on the field. End of story. And I think they've been too lax in others' departments. The defense did not play very well last year. So you need that to turn around if you want to make a serious run. I got the Eagles going to the NFC Championship game, and they're going to have to go up to Detroit. And I can't see, I think right now, I think that if you asked me honestly, I feel like in an NFC Championship game against Detroit, they lose. But that obviously, when you get there, the whole thing's going to change because who knows how it's going to all turn out. So the defense is going to play a major part. It's not going to be all on the offense. The offense has the weapons, but the defense has got to stop the other team. And if they can't do it, we're going to have a very similar season to last year.
Listen, I love the signing of Vic Fangio. I love that signing by the Eagles. I'm not sure about your offensive coordinator more. I don't know about him. I know he's had problems with Dallas and in San Diego. I mean, the LA Chargers. He's not there anymore. I don't know. But I do like Vic Fangio. And if something does happen to Sirianni, he could step up and be a head coach. He's been a head coach before. He's a good head coach, too. So, I mean, I think that was a hell of a move by the Eagles, to be honest with you. So, anyway. So if there's nothing else, we've got like 4 minutes left. I got to keep it on 2 hours, guys, so I can bring it and put it on Roku. So any quick announcements you want to make them now, and then we're out of here. So anything you got to say?
Yeah, I have something to say, but it has nothing to do with football.
Well, we don't want to talk about the Phillies losing, so we're not going to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies.
And I ain't got nothing to say.
No idea if that's past baseball, and the Phillies going to bid on Juan Soto when he's a free agent.
I think the Philly fans want to worry about getting to the playoffs and winning the World Series. I don't think they give a damn about Juan Soto right now. I think they want to get this boat straightened out and get back on the winning side again. We mentioned Crawford won. We mentioned a split decision. We mentioned judging.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, split between 3 people. Anyway, Jack is like, what are you talking about? 3 different decisions, more unanimous. How's that? Anyway, I think that's it, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Big Football Show. Mac and Jack is on tomorrow at 8 a.m., followed by Jack and Frank Latirzo on Glove Fist at 7 p.m., followed by Start Spreading the News at 9 p.m. Coast to Coast is on every day during the week from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So be sure to go to Roku. Check out all our great shows over there. Guys, have a great Sunday. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for everybody that participated today. Have a great Sunday.
Have a great Sunday.